showed how education and status created distance instead of solutions. And when that happens, those voices begin to dismiss anyone outside that structure. That's you, Roland. That's you. So when independent voices, whether it's a podcast, YouTube show, or a microphone at home, or someone just on their phone, start asking, what are the outcomes? What is the strategy? What's working? And the response is, you don't matter. That's not a debate. What you're doing, Roland, is gatekeeping.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine.
Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K. Jones, and welcome to another edition of the Publisher's Desk. And I'm Black Westchester publisher Damon K. Jones, and this is powered by blackwestchester.com, Black Westchester Magazine. And you know, I really try to keep Roland Martin's name out of my mouth, but I think we're getting to the point where the insults of just people, man, like, you know, I'm not taking it personal what he said, but I really think, you know, we have to have the conversation about his video clip. And I'm not even going to play it. I'm just going to address it, right? Y'all, I'm going to put the link in the description so people can watch it for itself. But if Black people in America want to put Black people first, Black Americans first, how is that anti-Black? Like, I don't even understand how is that anti-Black? See, because when you say things like that, Roland or other Negroes that, you know, think they know better for all Black people, we're no longer having a policy discussion. We're having a control discussion. Policy is supposed to be judged by outcomes, not by labels. See, I listened to Roland Martin break down his position. And what stood out wasn't just his criticism, it was his framework. Because instead of engaging the question of strategy and results, he shifted the conversation to who's Black enough and who's not. See, that matters because once the conversation shifts, you don't have to answer the real question. See, and the real question is simple. Roland or any other Black person who feels the way Roland feels, if the conditions affecting Black America are still the same or worse in some cases and in some cities, then what policy approach is producing a different result? Let's stay there. We don't have to go nowhere else. Who's Black enough? You know, who's more educated, right? All the other foolishness you were saying. Let's just stay with policy for Black Americans, not what Trump is doing, because Trump is doing for what people he represents. The question is, what is the people doing that's supposed to represent Black America? Now, that's not ideology. That's an evaluation. Roland or any other Negro who feel the way Roland feel. See, in his own breakdown, Roland points out rising Black unemployment, cuts in health-related programs, pressure on Black institutions. Now, those are real issues. No debate there. But here's the logical conflict. If those outcomes are real, then the next step is to examine the strategy tied to those outcomes, not attack people raising questions, not attack people that are raising questions. See, this is where Carter G. Woodson becomes critical because this conversation isn't new. Woodson addressed this exact pattern almost 100 years ago. He wrote, "The mere imparting of information is not just education. The effort must result in making a man think and do for himself." That's the standard. Thinking independently, acting based on results. And Woodson goes further. He explains how systems can produce people who are educated, but not independent in thought. He said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. He will find his proper place and stay in it. See, that's not an emotional statement. That's a structural analysis. Now apply that to today's conversations. When someone says we should prioritize Black Americans specifically in policy outcome, and the response is that's anti-Black, that's not a policy rebuttal, that's a psychological one. And Woodson also addressed the role of the educated class. He warned that the educated Negro may become a liability if trained away from the needs of his own people. Meaning, if you can identify every problem but cannot question the system producing those problems, then your education is not producing solutions. You want to point at Trump. But the Black community, Roland, has been catching hell long before Trump. The Black community, Roland, has been catching hell under Obama and Clinton and every president. The Black community hasn't changed. With all the organizations, the NAACP, the Urban League, National Action Network, Democratic Party, it hasn't changed. It has gotten worse. But it's convenient to blame Trump. So when Roland lists real issues, but does not pivot to why policy change produces different outcomes, instead of choosing to label the critics, instead, he chooses to label the critics. That reflects exactly what Woodson was describing. Not a lack of information, but a lack of limitation in application. There was crime and violence before Trump. There was broken families before Trump. There was poor economic development in Black communities headed by Black politicians before Trump. Just because Trump is in the White House means that we can't change the condition of Black people on local, county, and state level. It ain't got nothing to do with Trump. The Bronx, Mount Vernon, Brooklyn, that ain't got nothing to do with Trump. That has to do with our conditions. And when Black people are concerned about the issues in their communities, instead of fighting for migrants, seeing the people that we vote for fight harder for migrants than the young brothers and sisters getting shot at and killed in the streets by either police or by other Black people. See, I've been there. I've been fighting for police reform for over 35 years. Even wrote a piece of legislation in New York to make sure that NYPD was trained yearly in first aid when they came to a subject when a young girl died because the cop didn't know CPR. The state bill was called Breonna's Law, after the young lady that died, Breonna Ojeda. See, but when you up in that high horse and you don't understand the people on the ground that are dealing with a lot of these situations and their response to these situations, because they are on the ground fighting constantly, and they're not fighting Republicans. New York, we're not fighting Republicans in New York for police brutality, for affordable homes, for crime and violence in our communities. We're not fighting Trump. We're fighting people that look like us because they're the ones that are being elected. And you want to call people that do that and their response to that anti-Black? You sound no more than the Negro that works for the slave master. Now let's get further into policy, because this is where the conversation gets real. Let's ask a direct question. Is advocating for reparations, yeah, I went there, anti-Black? See, because I don't see you talking about it. I don't see you holding Kamala Harris and all the Democrat leaders that you support. See, it's because it's a policy position, brothers and sisters, tied to historical economic outcomes. And if that is a legitimate policy position, then I'm going to give you a follow-up question. Why is not a priority? It wasn't a priority for Kamala Harris. She said she wasn't going to do anything for black people only.
Listen, the reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country.
So why should black people support that? She wouldn't say that to the Jews, Roland. You wouldn't even say that to the Jews. You wouldn't say that to the Italians. You wouldn't say that to the Asians. So why is it okay for a woman running, a black woman running for president of the United States, to say that she's not going to do something solely for black people? How do you think black people will respond? Where is the video of her saying that to Jewish people, to Italian people, to Asian people? But you call us anti-black for questioning that? Negro, please. See, we're dealing logic over loyalty now, because if a group consistently supports a political party, then it's reasonable to measure what policies were delivered, what outcomes was changed, Roland, and what priorities were addressed. See, that's how every other ethnic group evaluate policies. We know they do. But do you do it? Let's not deflect off Trump. Let's reflect off the policies of the party that we give 90% of our vote to. Now we're back to the central issue. If economic gaps remain, if institutional weakness remain, if policy priorities are inconsistent, so then the discussion must shift to strategy, not identity, not loyalty, not a whole bunch of feminine emotions from a black man. See, Woodson made it clear. If you teach people to accept their condition, they will not seek to change it. That is the risk. Not disagreement, acceptance without evaluation. If someone says, let's prioritize black Americans in measurable outcomes, that is a policy decision. It should be debated with data, results, and strategy. Not labels. Oh, you're anti-black. What kind of bullshit is that? We have to be adult black men in the room. This is nothing about anti-black. It's about evaluating outcomes, questioning strategies, demanding measurable results. See, what undermines progress is avoiding those questions, Roland, altogether. See, before I end, I want to address something else that was said by Roland Martin. The idea that people with USB microphones and podcasts don't matter, aren't doing the real work, and shouldn't be taken seriously. Let's deal with that, Roland, and all you other so-called educated Negroes. See, that's not a policy argument. That's a status argument. Because now the conversation is no longer about ideas, outcomes, and strategy. It becomes about who has the bigger platform, who has institutional backing, who gets to speak, and who shouldn't speak. Last time I checked, this is America. Whether we like the policies or not, this is a country that has free speech. And people are allowed to say what the hell they want to say, Roland. And if you don't like it, the only thing you could do is say what you say. And if we don't like what you say, or if anybody don't like what you say, they can respond to what you say. But you want to take it to a status symbol because you feel you have a bigger platform than anybody else. Well, you should. You should have a bigger platform than a lot of other podcasters and online journalists. Because you have a bigger backing of the institution and Black Negro elites than those that are out here. Roland? See, that's a form of elitism. And historically, that has always been the problem, according to Carter G. Woodson and according to history. Because, see, that assumes that legitimacy comes from position instead of results. Now, let me make something clear. We're not reporting this to use Roland as a platform or all this elitist stuff that he said in the video. I just make it plain like I make it plain to the mayor of Mount Vernon, the mayor of New York City, the Westchester County exec, and any other elected official or any other person of power, all the way up to the government and even President Trump. If you don't do dumb shit, we won't report your dumb shit. And Roland, for you to call people that have a different political opinion of yours anti-Black, that's one of the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. And this is where Carter G. Woodson becomes relevant after 100 years. And I'm glad to use your speech as an example, Roland. Woodson warned about a class of people who are elevated, but disconnected from the masses. He showed how education and status created distance instead of solutions. And when that happens, those voices begin to dismiss anyone outside that structure. That's you, Roland. That's you. So when independent voices, whether it's a podcast, YouTube show, or a microphone at home, or someone just on their phone, start asking, what are the outcomes? What is the strategy? What's working? And the response is, you don't matter. That's not a debate. What you're doing, Roland, is gatekeeping. Because here's the reality. Policy does not change because of titles. Policy changes because of pressure. And historically, that pressure has often come from the people, outside institutions, outside of media structures, outside of traditional power systems. So dismissing voices because of their platform, instead of engaging their argument, is not strengthening the conversation. What you're doing is trying to limit it. The argument is weak. It should be challenged. If the argument is strong, it should be answered. But dismissing it, Roland, because who's saying it tells you everything you need to know. If people are watching and they enjoyed this conversation, please like and share and leave a comment. This is the Publisher's Desk, powered by Black Westchester Magazine and blackwestchester.com. We're just not a podcast or a YouTube show. We are a legit newspaper. You could go to our website and check out our articles on blackwestchester.com. Peace and blessings. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay safe, stay blessed, and stay Blacktastic. Peace out.
Appreciate you taking the time to engage with real conversations, real issues, and real perspectives that matter to Black America. Stay connected, stay informed, and as always, we'll see you next time at the publisher's desk. It's going to be Blacktastic. If you're serious about political clarity and independent thinking, this is for you. The Political Thought Bundle includes 3 full books, all personally singling. Democrats and Republicans, the Ultimate Gangbangers, breaks down how the two-party system operates like a legalized street war for power. Emotional Politics, Logical Failure exposes how emotion has replaced strategy in Black political engagement. Tolerance is for Coward lays out a blueprint for extended policing and community-led public safety rooted in outcomes rather than slogans. 3 signed books. One bundle, $60. That's a $75 value, and you're getting signed copies included. This isn't left versus right. It's results versus rhetoric. Go to twosteppublishing.com and secure your signed Political Thought Bundle today. It's going to be Blacktastic. For more than a century, Black America built its own economy under segregation, under discrimination, and under conditions most people today cannot imagine. We built businesses. We built banks. We bought land and property. In The Forgotten Blueprint, Damon K. Jones reveals how Black communities created thriving economic systems from 1800 to 1965 and why that blueprint still matters today. This book challenges the idea that our future depends on politics alone and shows how ownership, family, and enterprise once powered Black prosperity. The blueprint is not lost. We just stopped using it. The Forgotten Blueprint, how Black America built its own economy from 1800 to 1965. On sale now at Two-Step Publishing and Amazon. Black Westchester Magazine has been giving our community a voice, reporting the stories others ignore, holding power accountable, and making sure the truth about our communities is told by us. But independent Black media only survives when the community supports it. If you believe in real journalism, community accountability, and keeping Black voices strong in local news, we need your help. Your donation helps us continue covering the stories that matter: politics, education, justice, and economic empowerment right here in Westchester. Support Black media, support Black truth, support Black Westchester Magazine. Donate today and help keep Black media alive. Because Black-owned independent media is Blacktastic. Black Westchester Magazine presents People Before Politics, the Sunday Rundown, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on YouTube. Join Damon K. Jones, A.J. Woodson, and Larnez Kinsey as they break down the biggest stories in politics, culture, and community from a Black point of view. No spin, no party loyalty, just logic, accountability, and outcomes. If it impacts Black America, we're talking about it. Tap in, subscribe, set your reminder. This Sunday at 6 p.m. is going to be Blacktastic.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine, where life, culture, community, and faith meet truth, power, and purpose.